over the past 10 years, we've been connected to and renowned for our transformation and reform work that's called The Deal, the kind of philosophy and strategy around how we deliver public services in Wigan. And I suppose the kind of key thing to share in this, I guess, is we've had a relentless focus on the same mission for 10 years in Wigan, which is quite unusual, I think, in public services, particularly politically led organisations, and that's been one of our real strengths. We've got a lot of really innovative, creative politicians, a lot of stable politics in Wigan as well, which means we've been able to plan for the long term and stick to that approach. And the approach itself isn't really a kind of corporate strategy, it's more a philosophy and a mission, I suppose, that we've kind of developed and worked on over the past 10 years. And rooted at the heart of that, as Alison said, are digital methods and approaches as much as the digital technology, I guess. And in a kind of really agile way, the way that this work developed was out of a series of experiments, particularly in adult social care. We were trying to think really hard at the start of austerity about how to do public services differently. There was no ambition to just slash services, but knowing that we had significant savings to make, given the cuts in the budget, significant pressures on our population, as you'll have all experienced, and wanting to do something fundamentally differently. And I guess the kind of, amongst a number of things that we learned through that process, what we really learned was that we didn't really know a great deal about the residents that we serve. We did a lot of things to them. We went into the houses a lot, we fixed things that were problems in their lives, but we didn't ever really take the full time to really understand what was going on in people's lives, what made them happy, what their best day looked like, and how the council and other public service partners can work together to give them the tools and the confidence and the skills and the connections to make that best day more likely to happen than others. And that kind of single insight, I suppose, has driven a pretty fundamental transformation in the way in which we work, the attitude, the approach, and the methodology that we work. And in the kind of style of good movements, that's changed a lot over the 10 years. It's not owned by anybody, lots of different people have got their versions of it, but at the heart of it is an asset-based approach that's based on what people can do. It's about connecting people into communities, and our digital thoughts and tools play an enormous part in that. And it's about giving our workforce the permission to innovate, to think differently, and be creative. So these are the kind of ingredients of that reform, as I say. And we've got a brilliant workforce here in Wigan, and you're going to hear from lots of the team today, and hopefully that shines through, that idea of resilience, of trying to find solutions, of doing whatever it takes to get the best outcome for our residents. And whether that's if we're kind of programming digital tools or we're running workshops to think about how services and processes work and trying to improve them, putting the resident at the heart of that and being creative and innovative about how we change things, and making sure that in our places, in our neighbourhoods, our people come together. We lose the lanyards, we lose the kind of protectionism about our services and think about the residents that we're here to serve. Just to give you a kind of flavour of where we're up to right now, just in case it's of interest before I hand over the team, the work that we carried out in Wigan and our digital strategy being at the heart of that, about, I suppose, enhancing humanity through the use of digital tools and methods, came about in that response to austerity a decade ago. And through that series of experiments, we landed on something that we wanted to scale across the organisation. And as I say, if we've been successful at anything, it's been in kind of relentlessly keeping that focus over that decade to deliver the 170 odd million that Siraj mentioned. We've been able to take out of budgets. We've got a balanced adult social care budget, which I know is the envy of lots of places up and down the country. And it's that kind of mindset, approach, and use of the tools and skills that I described. I suppose, like every organisation now, we're coming out of that period post-pandemic. We've had like 2,000 new members of staff join us during that time, during times of remote working and so on. And we're kind of conscious from that point of view that some of the experiences and inductions that people have had, we need to work really hard at making sure that kind of Wigan magic that we feel every day is kind of shared with the organisation and with our partners. And obviously some of the challenges that our residents face are very different to how they were 10 years ago. The cost of living crisis, challenges around the kind of social and economic issues that our residents face. And as well, I suppose, we're kind of cognizant of the fact that we're on the cusp of another digital revolution through the use of generative AI, data analytics and so on, that for those in the know are certainly telling us and telling me that it's going to be more radically transformational than the internet and the kind of changes that we went through then. So we're thinking really deeply and hard about that and how we think about that in an ethical way for our residents, but make best use of those tools. So with all those things happening, we don't want to rest on our laurels, so we're engaging in a piece of work right now with our workforce, with our partners and residents to, I suppose, check back on that journey of 10 years, what was really strong in that work, what worked well for us, what of those ingredients are still relevant to the time we're in now. But think carefully about the challenges that our residents face and how we can be as radical and as bold again for this next 10-year period as we were back in the last decade. So that's our kind of mission that we're kicking off with now, and the partnership that we started with Jadu has been one of those really positive experiences that have been part of that journey overall. So I know we'll be keen to keep Suraj and the team involved in that evolving work, and yourselves through the kind of communities of practice that was mentioned that will build on events like today.
James, when did you start implementing this software? What was the driver?
I think very similar to the story you kind of shared, really, Suraj. I think we never start with the technology in Wigan. I know that's the case for lots of people. So our digital strategy, which is really about delivering the deal and that kind of overarching philosophy, is really about how we can, as I say, enhance humanity in public services. So we're always keen on that kind of user-centred position, I suppose, rather than the tech itself. And wanting to have flexible tools that we can be creative within our teams. It's one of our overriding principles for our workforce to feel that they've given the permission to innovate, be creative. And knowing that we've got a lot of legacy systems that kind of stop you from doing that, needing tools like Jadu that allow us to kind of build those integrations, those automations, and work together in the best interest of our residents without having to pay expensive consultants, I guess, every time you want to make a tiny little change in something, which to be iterative and progressive in that way you need to do as far as I'm concerned. I think when you're working in large organisations, the kind of pull of the bureaucracy is really powerful, isn't it? And sometimes, even when you've got an incredibly strong mission that we've got here in Wigan through the work we've done together on the deal, it's still really easy to slip back in busy times to those modes of, well, we let you know that we were doing it. Not really being true to that kind of idea. So we work hard at it in lots of different ways. We've created new roles in our organisation whose role it is to kind of spread that community knowledge, I guess, and be that connector in lots of different ways. We've got kind of set piece events and things that we do. And then we try really hard to make sure that our workforce know and understand the importance of getting alongside our residents. It's a kind of fundamental part of the deal. But it still has its challenges, I think it's fair to say. So I think it's something that you just have to kind of relentlessly work on and not think you've got it cracked, I think, and be humble and honest in challenging yourself. And we try and do that as much as we possibly can, but make mistakes like everyone. I suppose the thing that's felt really different over the past 10 years for me than at any other point in my career is that kind of relentless focus on the same mission for that period of time. So we've all worked, haven't we? You have a 3-year corporate strategy, you have a set of aims and ambitions or whatever, and it's just a thing in it that never really delivers much. But the deal was a true movement, I think, not because we intended to set out that way, it just happened and kind of got out of control in many ways, and we let that flow. And so it became something much bigger than we ever imagined it was going to be, I suppose. And sticking with it, and trying to codify the ingredients of it and be loose in its delivery, but tight in the definition of what it is, I suppose, in a kind of authentic way.
So in our table over there before, we were talking about how some of the challenges to getting useful, interesting, innovative work done is getting buy-in from senior leadership teams. So what would you say was particularly helpful for you in your role, getting buy-in from the rest of your senior leadership colleagues?
I suppose the culture of the place is hugely important. And I don't want to sound patronising like we're amazing and no one else is like this, but it's like a genuine team effort in Wigan. So it's not hard, I suppose. If the honest answer is, I've not had to work too hard at getting the kind of buy-in and support of my colleagues, because they're genuinely excited and interested and want the best. So there's a really kind of team Wigan dynamic, I suppose, here, where hierarchy is not that important to us. So we recognise that, probably frustratingly sometimes for Amanda and Paul and Tracy and everyone, just give me some bloody direction, you know. So we do try and give that where it's needed, but we're genuinely just kind of part of the team and want to get the best for our residents alongside our wider colleagues. So I think just perhaps the one thing that we do quite a lot is tell stories. So we tell stories quite a lot naturally in the place, and whether that's the kind of thing that we've consciously done or it's just something about the people that work here. And yeah, I've got a ton of stories that I like to talk about, but I'll probably get told off if I start. Yeah, we'll definitely get told off. So, okay, it's my pleasure to introduce Paul and Sam now to talk you through the highways work that they've been doing.
Thank you, James.